Hey, everybody. That was fast. I just went go live like 10 seconds ago and I'm live. Sometimes it takes a minute and a half to go live. But we're here. So I'm going to say hello to Zini, hello to Dade, hello to Mike. And that's all we've got to say hello to so far tonight. Red Ed, how are you? 3G. All right, we are going to get another Mike. The Mike and Mike Show. I'm sure there's been a radio morning show called The Mike and Mike Show. There just fucking has to have been. All right, as you can see, we are already mid-filter on this tank. Now, I just shut it off because I came in here and I actually have some holes drilled in the side of the bucket that were for something else at one point. But now they serve as a relief valve when the filter gets so clogged that the water starts filling up in the bucket. It hits these holes on the side and starts squirting out. So I actually might drill them out larger because they're small holes, and so the water squirts out of it really far. And if I've got it turned the wrong way, it'll actually squirt outside the edge of the pond if I ever miss it. And it also doesn't let the water out as fast as the water is going in. So worst case scenario, it would just overflow the bucket if I didn't catch it in time. But having those emergency drain holes in the side, I think would be a pretty good idea. And you can see what the filter looked like. That's the first one. I'm really low on filter material. So instead of bunching it in there in a mound like I normally do, I'm just kind of laying a sheet of it in, folding it over once. And hopefully I got like 3 or 4 of them we can use. And by the end of the evening, we should have it cleared out enough. I'll let that sit there and drain for a few minutes. I've also got some filter pads that we're going to put in the fancy goldfish tank when we get around to that one. So all I do, obviously pretty self-explanatory, I just put a filter in the bottom and then I turn the pump back on. And all I got to do is make sure the fish keep the water all stirred up. And occasionally I'll get my arm in there and stir the water up myself. And as long as I can keep it murky and let it flow through that pump, it usually doesn't take very long to start getting the dirty material starting to show up in there. And if I get down there and shake my hands around a little more in the water, it'll really start to show up quickly. And you can see how quickly it's already starting to pick up some crud. So we'll let that one go. And then we'll get straight over to the fancy goldfish and get them fed and just start the evening with their normal feeding. First, I'm going to drink some of my mushroom juice. This is not a full bottle. This doesn't have a whole lot in there. I only put about maybe that much in the bottom, and then I topped it off with water just to make it a little easier to drink. But we are going to have a nice little mushroom fun tonight. Bottoms up. So I was going to drink that over a period of time, but I didn't. I just drank it all at once. It's not a lot, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. In fact, I'll probably have another little bump later on in the evening towards the end of the live stream. Set up my buzz for the rest of the evening. Friday night, I'm going to be down here partying all night. Woohoo! Party, party. I got a good music tonight, too, if anybody wants to try to guess that at some point. I was wooing Zini with the romantic lyrics. So romantic. All right, let me see where I was. All right, got the mic and the red Ed. Thank you for the stop sign. Kane, how are you this evening? Yeah, Mike and Mike podcast. That would be cool. Yeah, I actually do have a couple of new flowers on the peace lily. I did chug it. I drank that whole bottle, but again, it was only about a quarter of a bottle in the bottle. TK, how are you? Oh, I forgot to text your wife today. I just got my truck back yesterday afternoon. I didn't have a chance to do anything today, but since she can't really drive the car long distances, I spray a customer in Catonsville in the last week of the month. So if you can hang on like 2 more weeks, I can just bring that stuff with me and just either come to your house or just meet her somewhere in Catonsville. That would be easiest for me. Obviously, I'm giving something away. I don't want to spend $20 in gas driving it down there just to get rid of it. But if I'm going to be in Catonsville anyway at the end of the month, I'll be more than happy to bring that with me, and we can work it out that way. Otherwise, if you kind of need it now because you're afraid your fish are going to jump out or something, let me know and we can work something out. I'll get it to you. Shirley, my girlie. All right. I did not get a chance to listen to your music you sent me, Zini. You sent it 5 minutes before I was going live, and I was already listening to my music for the night. And when I'm in a groove, I don't want to get it disrupted by listening to something completely different than what I was already listening to. And so, but I will check it out. I do get a kick out of their music. Two old dudes that rap. Their names are like Fish and Chip or something like that. All right, let's move on to the next tank. We're not going to spend a lot of time going around doing the feedings and stuff tonight. I don't really have a whole lot on my mind. I was trying to think of like some fish-related topic stuff we could talk about, and I just couldn't. I feel like I'm just burned out on the fish stuff. I don't mind answering questions, and I can talk about fish if that's the topic. But as far as like me just having stuff on my mind or having topics that I've been thinking about or pondering, like I just don't really get that anymore for the most part. If I do, of course, I talk about it. Kendra, thank you. You are my loyalist supporter. Is Snoop considered old now? Yeah, he's fucking old. He's like 65 or something. Computer, how old is Snoop Dogg?
Snoop Dogg is 53 years old.
53. He's my age, so god damn it. Yeah, he's old. Fuck. Yeah, Pete and Baz, fish and chips, whatever. Okay, I will definitely shoot her a text. She's already got my number and we've contacted each other, so we're in touch already. But I'll make future plans when it gets closer to the day. It's usually like around the 27th or something like that. Again, the last week in the month, I got to get my Catonsville. It's my big Annapolis day that I have to go do. ZBZ, Millie Vanilli. No Millie Vanilli tonight. Fishy, how are you? How long do they live? I'm not sure. Are we talking about Snoop Dogg? How long does who live? Let me turn this light off too. I didn't even think about that. You can probably see the tank a little better. Yeah, 53. He looks old though. I guess I do too, but still. God damn it. Well, Kendra, I don't care where the money comes from. You donate it, and I appreciate it. I could use every bit of help I could get for all of those of you out there listening. I don't have any experience with bamboo shrimp, so I don't have any idea whatsoever. Fishing football, how are you? In space. You need to add a couple of more A's in there to make it really draw out like it should. Unless you're not old enough to know what I'm talking about. Do you remember the Muppet Show, Pigs in Space? Arknight. I have had a couple of banjo catfish over the years, but neither of them lived very long. The longest lived of the two I have had was maybe a year and a half or something like that, and then I found it dead one day. So that's another one of those fish I've kind of given up on. Oh, I forgot to put the food in here for everybody. I'm busy talking. So let's actually feed this tank before we move the camera to another tank. I put the flakes in, but this is always a two-part tank. I put flakes in for some of the fish, and then I got to put the algae wafers in for the bulk of the fish. And I always throw the first one in and then forget about the second one. Those are silver dollars. Yeah, Muppet Christmas Carol is actually really good. They did a really good job with that. Yes, the Waldorf. It's Waldorf and Statler are the two you're talking about. The old man up in the balcony. Yes, that is the Muppet Show. It was a variety show, except they had Muppets instead of real people, and they would always have different guest stars on and stuff like that. And they would do different skits and segments. The Swedish Chef, if you're familiar with the Swedish Chef, he comes from the Muppet Show. He was a skit. But they had an ongoing gag. It was Pigs in Space, and it was set like a Star Warsy kind of, or like one of the Battlestar Galactica television shows or whatever. They had like these weekly things they had to deal with or whatever. And of course, it was Miss Piggy and some of the other ones or whatever. Those pigs in space. And so that's what I think about every time I see fish and footballs in space. I like candy wrappers. The red fish in this tank, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I do have a jewel cichlid in there that's fairly reddish looking in color. And then I've got the pearl cichlid that has the sort of reddish fins, but that pearly spotted body. Yeah, the Muppet Show was fucking awesome. I loved the Muppet Show when I was a kid. If it was the Russians, though, they'd have to say dogs in space. Fish, how are you? Good, glad to hear it. Has silver went up again? I have no idea. I don't follow the silver market. All right, let's move on to the next tank. I don't listen to any French rappers. I'm not a big fan of rap music, and listening to French dudes rap sounds like torture. I do, however, listen to French DJs. I've listened to them for years. I always thought they were English. I was shocked to find out that Daft Punk are French. And so I do listen to some Frenchies. Just not French rap. Again, that sounds awful. Just listening to somebody speak in French is awful. You ever heard Mac Dre? I have not. I've never even heard of Mac Dre. Christopher! No, I don't think this is the right stream. It might be. I don't know. My target audience is definitely not older women. And my YouTube channel is not necessarily a target audience for older women either. Am I streaming elsewhere? No, I'm just on YouTube. Daft Funk? I've never heard Daft Funk. That's cool. Oui, exactly. Too many DJs. Oh, well, like marches and anthems and stuff like that, those are different. Those are specifically designed to like drill right down into the hindbrain and get you up on your feet and marching. So, yeah, that kind of stuff's always easy to listen to. I'll tell you some music I enjoy listening to, despite the fact that I'm a staunch atheist. Gospel music. Some gospel music is amazing to listen to. In fact, one of my favorite albums from a country singer, believe it or not, is an album called Joshua Judge's Ruth, named after the Bible books by Lyle Lovett. It's a fantastic album, and it's sort of a very gospel-y sounding sort of album. What's my target OnlyFans audience? Men. Doesn't matter, young, old, I don't care. Although I do find that I attract mostly younger men, it seems. Michael, how are you? Yeah, I'm still waiting for the rich dude. I haven't found that one yet. I have platies in there. I don't have any mollies. I have platies and swordtails and guppies in there. So I do have 3 different live bears, but I don't have mollies in that tank. Silver dollars are doing well. You just missed them. Well, Mike, if you had older women as your target audience on OnlyFans, you'd be a broke-ass bitch. Women don't spend money on porn. Men spend money on porn. You might be seeing the swordtails. The swordtails are a little bigger than the platies. The platies are like the sort of orangey-looking ones, and then the swordtails have more of a whitish speckled color. I actually just pulled a dead swordtail out of there yesterday, or on Wednesday rather, and it was really big. I was surprised at how big it was. Of course, it was also, bloated, so that made it look a little bigger. But lengthwise, they don't stretch out when they get bloated; they just get fatter. And so it was a pretty damn big swordtail. But most live bears only have a few-year lifespan, and I've had them for a while now, and I got them from somebody else already mature, and so I don't even know how old they were when I got them. So it's very likely that they already could have been 1.5 years, 2 years old. So I don't think anything is amiss by the fact that they're already, starting to die off. All right, we're just going to do some granules in here tonight. And that'll make sure plenty of it gets to the bottom. I'm pretty sure when I put all of the Vibrobites in there, plenty of it gets to the bottom as well, but the granules just ensure that a lot of them just sink straight down. All right, I'm going to get my arms in the pond here and swirl the water around just to keep it nice and murky. That's the whole point of running this filter system. Getting all the corners underneath of my table over here. Oh, I forgot I got that other filter in here. I might do something with that at some point. Not tonight because I don't have enough filter material to fill it. I have to go up to the Walmart this weekend, get some more polyester batting, because I do buy my filter material at the Walmart sewing section and save a lot of damn money. Yeah, it's amazing what wiping the glass down from time to time will do for you. All right, let me see where I was. Oh, I cleared a lot of duckweed away on Wednesday. The whole entire top of that tank was completely covered. It was in there for a few days. I noticed it one day when I was feeding, and then I forgot to take it out when I was done making my rounds. And then the same thing happened the next day. And so it was at least 3 days before I finally took it out of there. I haven't actually done any work on this tank in quite a while. I haven't cleaned the glass or anything. So I'm surprised everybody's commenting on how clear it looks. Yeah, I like it when the disco ball hits the fish and lights them up. It works really well on the silver dollars if you're lucky enough to have them sitting in one spot for a few minutes. It looks like they have like flashing lights on them. It looks like police fish. It's blue and red flashing lights on the side of the fish. Yeah, it's going to be time to get in there and trim some of those crypts here pretty soon. They're getting a little overgrown. See, I'm the other way around. I love my tetras, but I'm not a big fan. I like rasboras too, but I am not a fan of danios. Now, I buy the sheet. The stuffed animal blanking, that's usually called polyfill. And that's the stuff you use for quilting, pillows, stuffed animals, etc. And it's just like a giant, massive cotton ball. It's polyester, obviously. That's rubbish. I hate that shit. It's a pain in the ass. Putting it in is a pain in the ass. Getting it out of the filter is a pain in the ass. If you buy the stuff that's called batting, batting, it's a roll. It's a sheet of stuff, and you just cut the pads in the shape you want and use them. Definitely do not buy the polyfill. Buy the polyester batting. Maximum age for guppies, probably about 4 years. Maybe you might get 5 out of a guppy if you're really, really lucky, but usually about 3 or 4 years. Hey, the red-tailed shark made an appearance. Nice. Yeah, if I ever see rice fish when I'm at the PetSmart or something, if I ever go back there, I haven't been to the fish store in literally years. I keep telling myself I'm going to, but then I keep thinking I got better things to spend my money on, like mushroom juice. Yeah, 2 years out of a guppy is not unusual at all. Again, 5 is going to be an extremely old guppy. 4 years is an old guppy. 3 is probably about average lifespan, but for them to die within 2 years is not unusual either. Remember, guppies and the way they breed, and you can only imagine the breeding facilities that are producing these guppies. You can't imagine that they've got the best genetics in the world. I'm imagining they're probably slightly inbred, to say the least. They call it polymat. I use a disco ball. It's not a disco ball that has the mirror like a traditional disco ball, because those don't really do anything unless you also have colored lights and lasers and shit shining on them. This is a new modern disco ball made with LEDs, and it's the whole ball itself. It's like a light bulb. You just screw it into a socket, and then the bulb rotates, and it's got a faceted lens on it, and it's got the red, green, and blue LEDs on the inside. And as it rotates, the facets spin the light around. And so for $12, I got a disco ball that actually works better than most disco balls. $40 a roll, Jesus. I get it for about 20, and that's like way up. It used to be like $13 for a large roll of extra thick. I would buy the largest roll I could get. It was like 190 square inches or something. And then it was the thick stuff, the extra loft is what they call it. It's the thicker material. And I used to get that for like $13 or $14. Now it's like 20, but $40 for a roll, that's fucking crazy. All right, let me see. Just getting caught up. I'm not a big fan of the balloon fish, the mollies, the rams. There's a few other out there that have that balloon look to them. To me, that looks like a fish that's suffering from dropsy. It took me a while to even get used to my fancy goldfish with their big fat round bellies on them. They just look like something's wrong with them to me. So I've never been a fan of the pre-bloated fish. Well, if it had scoliosis, if it had a crooked back to begin with, then I don't really know how that's going to affect it. But crashing into the bottom of the tank from yo-yoing too hard that's not going to cause scoliosis. Scoliosis isn't from an injury; it's a genetic thing. Their spine develops crooked, and so an injury is not going to cause that. Balloons or calls. All right, thank you for that stop sign. That will be a good place for me to stop. We'll go ahead and move on to the next tank. And I'm not actually puffing on any weed tonight. I just have my mod with my THC vape juice. Well, if he used to have an ordinary spine and now it is damaged, that could be an injury, but that wouldn't be scoliosis. That would be something different. And if he's got a spinal injury that makes him look crooked, then I don't really know what to tell you about that. That sounds like a pretty significant injury. All right, sticking with the granules in this tank. I know they were turning the frogs gay, but I didn't know they were turning the fish gay. Go back to a savage roasting bowl. Now I'm just puffing on nicotine. Oh, well, the way you had said he crashed into the bottom, like I thought you were indicating, like I've had fish die from swimming into the glass before. Um, and so I assumed you were insinuating that, he had some sort of injury from hitting the bottom too hard or something. So if he's always been crooked like that, then that, very well could be genetic and actual scoliosis. But I don't know. I've had fish live for years with the crooked back, whether it affects their growth or not. I'm assuming it does if your spine's all twisted up. Yeah, I used to have a discus in there. I mean, angelfish in with my discus. It died some years ago, but I did have one in there for a long time. It was actually my amazingly huge, giant angelfish. I wouldn't mind putting another one in there, but it's a pretty crowded tank with the discus getting as big as they are. I'm kind of waiting for those ever-living rainbow fish to die off. And when they do, I'd like to get some more rainbow fish to go in with my discus. I think that would look awesome. I really want to get the Bosmani rainbow fish. I've always wanted them, and I've had several different rainbow fish over the years, but I've never gotten the Bosmani. They're usually really expensive, and you got to buy like 5 or 6 of them at a time, and they're, $15 to $25 depending on where you go and how big they are and whatnot. So I've always figured that would be one of my special, I'll take a bag of weed, ounce of weed down to the fish store or something like that, and I'll get myself some free fish out of it. The goldfish are doing well. We're filtering the pond right now, and I gotta say, I do believe this filter is also done. We just replaced it at the beginning of the live stream, and you can see it's already starting to collect water. So we'll go ahead and pull that filter out, and I got a few more pads to put in there. So we'll just keep going for the rest of the evening, or until my mushrooms kick in and I start getting too distracted. Then I'll shut it all down so I don't do something stupid. But before we move on, we're going to do a couple little things in this tank. For one, I'm going to get all this Java away from the power head down here so the water can actually flow through it. And I really need to get in this tank and do a serious vacuuming. There's detritus and loam and stuff collected up everywhere. You can see it all swirling around now that I got the water flowing again. So that corner is just full of stuff. The lack of water flow is part of the reason, but not all of it. And if I can just peel a couple of giant chunks of cyanobacteria off the top here, I might as well while I'm in there. Get some of the floating crud out of there. And the main thing I want to do is get the filter intake cleaned out. This thing gets clogged up. The little bits of Java fern get broken off constantly by the fish swimming around in it and whatnot. And then it grows, it ends up in the damn filter intake. And clogs it up really quickly. So every 2 or 3 days, I have to get in here and scrape this intake clean and put it back on. And yes, I've had a lot of people recommend putting a pre-filter on it, but a pre-filter really slows down the flow of water going through it. And the whole point is to have a pretty significant amount of suction going in there so it pulls the crud out of the tank. I don't want it to have a low flow rate on the intake through a sponge, which, like a sponge filter in your tank. I guess if I put a small enough sponge on it. That might work. But then the sponge would just get covered in Java fern, and I would still have to get in there and clean the sponge off all the time. So it doesn't really make any sense to me to actually put a sponge pre-filter over my filter intake. Either it will stop filtering the tank properly, and this one already struggles because of aforementioned issues, or the sponge filter itself would just get completely covered with the, moss, and it itself would clog up. Maybe I wouldn't have to get in there quite as frequently to unclog it, but I still would. All right, let's move on to this tank. You already saw me change out the filter on the other thing once, so you don't need to see me do that again. And we're going to stick with the granules. Make sure you pay attention to the bottom of the tank. I have 5 striated bodia in there. And you'll probably see them out and about, darting around in a moment. Quaz, how are you this evening? Black skirt tetras just chase each other around like for, pecking order dominance kind of stuff. The fern, that's actually a big piece of wood in the middle of the tank and just has fern growing over it. All right, said hello to Quaz. Yeah, it's not unusual for fish's color to either get lighter or darker as they age. Zini is an enigma. Speaking of enigma, does anybody want to guess my music tonight? And I'll give you a hint. It wasn't enigma. Let me see. How would I describe tonight's music? New age band, or a new wave band. I'm sorry, not new age. I do occasionally, I have to admit, listen to new age music, but not very often and not for very long. It's more just to remind myself how awful new age music is. But tonight I was listening to new wave. And it is a band that is comprised of members of another band that disbanded. The band that disbanded is the Talking Heads. And then let me get this name correct. Tina Weymouth, the legendary, it's Chris. Okay, I wasn't sure of the first name there. Tina Weymouth was the bass player in Talking Heads. And her husband was also in Talking Heads, Chris Franz, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. And after the Talking Heads broke up, Chris and Tina went on to form their own band. And this is that band. There you go, Direwolf, Tom Tom Club. So I was listening to Dark Sneak Love Action. That's an album. It's also a song, but I was listening to the album tonight. So much spooky ambiance tonight. It's like a Halloween show. Nope, Direwolf, I already got it. It was the Tom Tom Club. All right, I'm not sure what a sport bear is or how you got close enough to smell cigarette smoke on it, but yeah, I'm not sure what you're saying there either. All right, let me get this filter taken care of. Here, actually, let me show you what I was talking about a moment ago. Not that you need any detailed explanation, but you see how the water comes out the sides? And if it gets, it's just above the hole right now. By the time the water level's up to here, that water's coming out of those holes with quite a bit of force. And if I had this turned, even at that rate, if I had this turned, 4 degrees, I'd be dumping that water right on the floor right now. So it's definitely time to get in there and get that one emptied out. All right, while I'm doing that, I'll move you to the next tank. Get the light turned on for you. And we'll just stick with the granules since I got them right here. I just refilled my container yesterday, so it's easy to reach in and get right from the top. All right, let me take care of that filter before it gets any worse. The first thing I got to do is unplug the filter and then or unplug the pump and then just let the water drain through that. When it's finally drained out, I'll be able to pull that pad out. Steve, you made it. Did I text you today and tell you about that mushroom I ate last night? I actually felt that mushroom I ate last night. It wasn't a lot. But then again, the mushroom itself was only 0.4 grams, less than half a gram. But I did actually feel something from it. It wasn't a lot, as I said, but it was noticeable. It was definitely a mushroom sort of feeling. And so I'm pretty sure at this point that I overheated them when I dried them out and ruined them. The one I ate yesterday, I haven't talked about this yet, but when I harvested the mushrooms the first time, there was one that was really small and I just left it in there and didn't cut it down, and it continued to grow. And so yesterday I did cut it down. The cap hadn't even opened up yet. It was still pretty small, but I dried it out at a lower temperature. I put it on top of my food dehydrator rather than in it. And with it being on top of the food dehydrator, it never got over like 135 degrees. And so when that was dry, I ate that last night rather than making tea out of it, just to see if anything would happen. And again, even though it was only 0.4 grams, I felt the effects of it. So the other stuff, the first batch I made that I dried at the higher temperature, yesterday I made tea out of 3.6 grams. It was over an eighth that I made tea out of, and it didn't do fuck all. I didn't feel a goddamn thing from it. And so I'm pretty sure that whole entire first batch I made, I ruined by overheating them when I dried them out. Fortunately, there's a whole new wave of mushrooms, sprouting and coming out off of my mycelium block. So in a few weeks, I'll have more. And I did buy a new food dehydrator, so I have a low temperature food dehydrator now. And so next time I dry them, I'll be able to dry them at an even lower temperature. I'm going to dry them at like 110 degrees. And so I should get viable mushrooms out of my next harvest, I hope. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. I never saw that. I'm familiar with what you're talking about, but I've never seen it. Steve. Yeah, I know I told you I'd eaten it, but I don't remember. I think I was going to text you last night and tell you that, like, hey, I'm actually feeling something from this, but I looked at the clock and it was like 9:30, and I didn't want to text you that late just to tell you something I could tell you today, on a night that I knew you had to get to bed for work and everything. It wasn't important, but I did actually feel something from it. I have a friend named Webby McWebbington. I don't think my oven gets to 800 degrees. Hey, Ark, how are you doing this evening? All right, let's move on to the next tank. My filter has drained out, so I'm going to go ahead and replace that. Actually, let's just move right to the last tank. There's nothing to look at in that tank except 2 guppies and a bunch of shrimp. Don't honestly know if Gilgalad is still in there. I did see him a few days ago. He looked like he was on death's door, just lying on the bottom. And so, again, I've just sort of left him in there to do his thing. I figure when he finally does pass, the shrimp will make short work of him. Or he'll just rot away and go back into the tank. Again, we'll just father fish that one. And then I don't have to worry about pulling him out of there or saying goodbye or anything. So, again, I haven't seen him in a few days. He might have already passed. But if he hasn't yet, he's going to very soon. There's no doubt about it at this point. I noticed like a week and a half ago that he was acting funny and he wasn't eating normally. And so I kind of figured he was on his way out. And then, like I say, over the last week or so, all he does is lay on the bottom if I see him at all. All right, let's get this filter out of here. Put it on this to let it drain a little bit. We'll put a new pad in. Now this pad's barely enough to even cover the bottom, so this is gonna get dirty fast. But we'll let it do whatever it's going to do, and then we'll put that last piece in when this one gets full. And the last piece should be big enough that I can fold it over at least once. I hate this. There we go. I usually have to bang the side of this filter or pump to get it flowing. I don't know why, but when I turn it on, it just sits there, and then I got to bang it, and it starts spinning. Once it's going, it's fine. It just doesn't start until you hit it. Unless, of course, I have the hose sticking out somewhere where I don't want it, and I plug it in by accident, then it'll start pumping and squirting water everywhere. But normally, if it's set up properly and I turn it on, nothing happens, and I got to get in there and bang on it to get it to move. All right, I'm also going to cut a few dead fronds off of this peace lily over here. Get some of these lower yellowing ones off of there because they're going to be dead soon enough anyway. This thing has so much new growth on it, it's crazy. All right, that'll be good enough for now. So I did a slight trimming on the peace lily. And let me go get my shrimp tanks fed while you're looking at that one. So my former betta fish tank is now basically a shrimp tank with a couple guppies in it. My quarantine tank is basically a shrimp tank. My shrimp tank is a shrimp tank. And the other quarantine tank I have in the bathroom in the other room is supposed to be a shrimp tank, but I've been looking in there. I feed it every night, and I'm going to go feed it now. But I don't really see any shrimp swimming around in there, so I don't know if I didn't put enough in to establish a breeding colony or what. I would think by now that this tank should be overrun with shrimp, and it's just I don't even see them when I look in there. So I still feed it. Presumably there's still a few hiding in there in the bushes, but I don't know. Something's eating the food, either the snails or the food's just rotting away or something, but the tank looks clean and the water's nice and clear. So I don't know what to say about all that. All right, I will keep that in mind. Steve, One Revolution, how are you doing? I don't know what you mean by controlling pH. Are you asking me how to do it? How do I do it? Can it be done? I need more than that to answer a question. I don't know about the brown crypts. Yeah, I could have sworn I put at least 10 to 20 in there. I did a couple scoops out of my quarantine tank and dumped them in there. So I'll try again. Go so hard. How are you doing this evening? It has been a while. Well, you all can keep your spiders, especially that huntsman. That's a big, scary motherfucker. I know they're harmless, but goddamn, they're scary looking. Steve, you can have more shrimp anytime you come out here. I don't know what we got going on for the weekend. If you want to try to hang out this weekend sometime. Does whatever a spider can. Builds a web. You all think I was going to keep singing? All right, let me get myself around there and cup a squat and have a sit down. Actually, let me get my arms in the pond again and swirl the water around before I come over and cup my squat and have my sit down. And let's see, do I need any other drugs or anything before I sit down? I do. Let me go get some drugs and then I'll be back. I bought pre-rolled cones instead of rolling papers. And while they are more expensive, they're not crazy expensive. I got 300 rolling papers for like $4.99 or something, $5.99. But with the cones, I only got 50 cones for like $8.99. But man, they're so much easier to roll and smoke so much better. And you get the nice little filter tip on the end. So I'm really happy with buying the cones. And so we will smoke one of these here in a minute. Get my ashtray. I always forget I need that. Actually, let me dump out the ashtray because it's got a bunch of joint butts in it. I don't smoke cigarettes, but there's a lot of joint butts in there. And I'll also bring in my mushroom syrup. We'll have another swig of that at some point. All right, filter is still filtering. Let me swirl some water around, get the muck all swirled up again. I like doing this after a feeding because the fish themselves rooting around as the food gets in the bottom and they swirl around. And by the time we're done feeding, the tank's usually looking pretty murky anyway. So tonight I'm doing it manually. But it's a pretty effective way of keeping the pond filtered out. There's no real way to effectively get all the mulm and crud and stuff out of the bottom. Even if I were to do a gravel vacuum, because this pond sits on the floor, it's so low to the ground, I never get any considerable suction during a siphon cycle. And so when I do a water change on the tank, I use the same pump. I just put a longer hose on it and run it into the drain in the other room, and I pump the water out of the tank. And that allows me to do a pretty big water change fairly quickly on this pond. But I don't have a terribly effective way of filtering the pond. And so about once a month, I'll just set this bucket up and do what we're doing tonight. And just basically, I think about it in the same way I think about, I can see Gilgalad spinning there. He is still in there. I think about this the same way I think about like dialysis. I just let the thing build up for a little while, and then I run it through a filter cycle and filter, the water that's in the tank for a couple of hours, and then we're good for another few weeks before I have to set the filter up and do it again. Hey, JP, how are you doing this evening? Well, camel spiders aren't even spiders. And they're not camels either. Their whole name is a lie. All right, let me come over here and sit down. Oh, I need to get a lighter. I'm so used to vaping my weed now that I don't carry a lighter around with me as a matter of course like I used to. And so now I got to get one when I need it. All right, I think we're ready. We're probably not, but I think we are. Of course, just because I think we are doesn't mean we actually are, but we'll find out, won't we? Usually it's about 1 second after I sit down before I remember the thing I needed to get before sitting down. So we'll get the light turned on. I got my tablet, I got my weed, my vape, my mushrooms, so we're good to go. All right, here we go. Perfect. All right, let me see what we got going here. Night Tarot. Never heard of that one. Oh, is it supposed to be bad weather this weekend? I haven't even looked, honestly. I didn't even remember today was Friday until I got home from work. I actually worked today. All right, JP, hello. All right, I am caught up. Anything on anyone else's mind tonight? Anything going on? Because again, I got nothing unless you want to hear me tell stories or something, and I don't have enough mushroom juice going to really tell any good stories just yet. So you got to humor me for a little while. It's only 9 o'clock. I'm really bummed that the company I get this vape juice from went out of business because I really like this stuff. Fish Tropic, how are you? Is purple elephant supposed to be a topic of conversation? I don't know that one. Not sure what I wanted to do, but I guess I'll probably do it. All right, I think I'm all caught up. I don't think I missed anybody here. While I'm waiting, let me see if let me look at my phone and see what my phone's weather says for the weekend. My wife was just asking me earlier if I planned on doing anything this weekend. I'll send my mom a little smiley face. If you watch the opening of my live streams, I always give a little tug on my ear. That's to say hello to my mom. It's a throwback to Carol Burnett. Oh, it's supposed to rain Saturday and Sunday. Yep. And it's only going to be in the 60s. So, yeah, it's going to be a crappy-ass weekend. And Monday. Well, that sucks. All right. Never mind, Steve. I mean, if you wanted to come over and hang out and get some shrimp and sit in the basement and smoke and stuff, that's fine. We can do that for a while. Hell, if you want to come over and drink some mushroom syrup and have that mushroom experience we talked about, you can do that too. We can hang out this weekend. It'll just, like you said, it'll be indoor activities. Maybe go fuck off out in the backyard or something for a little while. It's like a dad threat. I'm not saying I'm going to tell jokes. My stories are good stories. I like telling my stories. I can't think of any stories to tell, though, that would be relevant, that had anything to do with anything. I was thinking the other day how we're coming up on the anniversary. I should do an anniversary storytelling of my my accidental dosing of an entire fucking fish store. That's an epic story, and it was a New Year's Eve event, and so I could always do that as my big New Year's Eve thing. We can retell the story of how I accidentally dosed an entire fish store. But yeah, other than that, I haven't really been thinking any stories that I wanted to tell anybody that I thought would be funny or educational, at least. You guys should tune into my Wednesday night members only live stream. We get into deep philosophical discussions. Depending, of course, on how much mushroom juice I drink. But we had some pretty good conversation this last Wednesday. So if you're not a member and you'd like to be, $2.99 a month. If you go under any of my videos, you'll see a join button. There's also Patreon. That if you want to help support the channel, I do accept Patreon, but I don't do anything on Patreon. So that would simply be a donation, a monthly donation, if you wanted to sign up at Patreon. If you want to actually get something out of your $2.99, you can join a membership here on YouTube, and then you'll get access to my Discord server. You will get access to the Wednesday members only live stream. On the rare occasion that I do still post standalone videos or whatever, they always go out to the members first, usually for a day or so before they go out to the public. So you get some benefits along with the donation. So it's $2.99 a month, and that gets you access to all that kind of stuff. Plus you get like badges and emojis and stuff you can use here on the live streams. So that's if you're interested. Otherwise, I do the public live streams every Friday and Sunday at 8. Considering it, it's not a guarantee necessarily, but I usually do a live stream every Friday and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, well, thank you, Mike. Yeah, I wish it was $299 a month. Yeah, I dance and sing on Wednesdays. It's the one thing I'll never do anywhere, but on Wednesdays I dance and sing. I didn't inform no one. I informed the guy I was giving the cookies to. I'm jokingly saying I dosed an entire fish store. I didn't do shit. I gave a guy some cookies as a thank you for a favor he had done for me. And then he dosed the entire fish store because he put them on the goddamn break room table without telling anybody what they were. And everybody just assumed it was a holiday and there were cookies on the table. And so everybody ate the cookies. That was on him, not me. I don't take any personal responsibility for that at all. I've learned not to trust some idiot not to do something like that. So I won't put myself in that position again, but I didn't dose that fish store. I'm just telling you. And those red boots. I'm not sure about the red boots. Christmas cookies. Did you ever eat? Are you still awake, Steve? Did you ever eat any of those cookies? I forgot to ask you if you how strong were they? Because I didn't eat any. I just gave you the whole batch. All I ate was I licked the spoon when I was done. I got the flavor of it in my mouth, basically. I didn't actually eat any significant amount whatsoever, but I could taste how strong they tasted. And so I was wondering, I don't know, again, if you're even still awake, if you ever did make any of those into cookies and eat them. All right. No, Art, they're actually suppository. I have learned not to smoke mushrooms. I have figured that out in my research and whatnot. The heat definitely would break down the psilocybin, and apparently, when you burn mushrooms, it produces some kind of toxic fucking fume that comes off of them. So, and all the times I've smoked mushrooms in the past, I thought I was feeling a little bit of a buzz off of it, but I think I was just inhaling toxic fumes that were making me dizzy or something. But I used to do that all the time when I would eat mushrooms. I'd always save a little bit, and then while I was on the mushrooms, I would pack a bowl full. I'd put a cap or something in a bowl, and then I would smoke the mushroom cap, thinking it was giving me like a little boost to my buzz or something. And again, it always made me feel funny after smoking it, and so I always assumed it was doing something. But apparently, after reading, like, you really, really should definitely not be smoking mushrooms. It's really not a good idea. Not only do you destroy any psychoactive ingredients in it, but you're also producing toxic byproducts by heating the mushroom up that high. So don't smoke mushrooms. Yeah, I don't know where I ever got the idea. I did it when I was a teenager. I haven't done it as an adult, but when I was a teenager and I used to get mushrooms regularly, um, that was just always part of my trip. I always just smoked some of the mushrooms. And the first time I did it, like I said, it made me feel more funny during my trip. And so I assumed it was doing something. And so, again, it probably was. It was loading me up with fucking toxic byproducts. Um, but yeah, so don't ever smoke mushrooms. And crack is whack. Remember that. Sideshow. No, I'm not smoking mushrooms now, but I have in the past. As I was saying, I used to put like a cap or something in a bowl while I was tripping, and then I'd smoke the mushroom, thinking it was getting me high, or adding to my trip or something, and it clearly was not. So don't do that. But yes, I did. I have smoked mushrooms before. YouTube blocks all kind of weird stuff and then doesn't block other things. No, I've never even done cocaine. Chris, you're back. I did get a disposable vape from the treehouse, this mushroom stuff. Again, this isn't psilocybin mushroom, but it is, I think it's DMT. I think ayahuasca ingredient, or the ingredient that makes you trip in ayahuasca. I think that's what's in this. I don't know 100%, but from all the research I can do, I think this has Mimosa hostilis root bark in it, and that is the root bark they use to make the brew ayahuasca. And it's DMT. It's dimethyl tryptophan, and that's a psychoactive ingredient. So I think that is what is in this. So it doesn't give you the same effect as a real psychedelic. I mean, it doesn't give you a psilocybin effect. It definitely gives you a psychedelic mushroom effect, just not a psilocybin mushroom effect. It's its own sort of experience, its own thing. It's weird. It's fantastic, but it's weird. They make a vape cartridge that's the same sort of mushroom blend. You can get chocolate, you can get gummies, you can get the syrup I have, or you can get these vape pods. I did take a chance on getting one of the vape pods, and they're fucking useless. So don't. I mean, you can puff on that thing until it burns out, and you're not going like you'd have to consume the entire contents all in one go. And that would maybe give you a little buzz off of it. So don't, if you are going to buy these Treehouse products, don't waste your money on the vape products. Just get the syrup or the gummies or chocolate or whatever, and you will thank me later. All right, let me see where I was. Yep, I've never even tried cocaine. Thought it was insane in the membrane. All right. Shirley, you can't be serious. And don't call me Shirley. No, that was from Airplane, not Police Academy. It was the same guy. It was Leslie Nielsen, but it was from the movie Airplane. He said something, and basically somebody said, "Surely you can't be serious," and he's like, "I am serious, and don't call me Shirley." Multiple personalities is generally referred to as schizophrenia, but there's no real thing as multiple personalities that doesn't actually exist. And schizophrenia actually encompasses a lot of different types of mental disorders. Most notably, schizophrenia will be like hearing voices and stuff like that. They think Vincent van Gogh suffered from schizophrenia. That's why he cut his ear off. You're hearing voices and whatnot. You associate that with your ears, and he was trying to stop the voices by cutting his ear off. Obviously, they're generating inside your head, so cutting your ears off doesn't do anything, but that's the people suspect that. There's no proof that he, suffered from it, obviously, but that would make a lot of sense as to why he cut his ear off. And we know he suffered from mental illness, so that all kind of works out. Get me a brick of some Mexican brickweed. If you got ADHD, you ain't missing shit. I do have ADHD, so I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you got, Zini. You got Zini syndrome. I don't know. I've never met anybody like you, so I don't know. I don't know how to figure out what you got. Plus, you're way above my pay grade. You need to see a professional, not me. I'll have to look into the dissociative identity disorder. Again, I don't know that there are. Again, I would have to look into that. I don't know exactly what dissociative identity disorder is, but I don't think it's, you're Bob and Carol both living in the same body, and Carol lives one life and Bob lives another. That's movie stuff. That's not how that works, as far as I know. So I'll look into the dissociative identity disorder. Anyone else see black cats and a shadow figure? I see shit like that all the time. I eat a lot of mushrooms, though. Oh, you're saying I'm not missing anything with the cocaine. I got you. I knew a dude once that he used to do dope and he would do crack. He would fall asleep when he smoked crack, but he would bounce off the fucking walls when he did heroin. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And I smoked weed with him one time, and I would never do that again. He turned into an insane person when he smoked weed. I was just like, what the fuck is going on? This dude lost his mind when he smoked weed. But he'd fall asleep with a crack pipe on his chest. Well, I read about the DMT, and once I figured out what DMT was, it's actually really common. It's in a lot of plants. It's in citrus tree bark, just not very much of it. And so you got to find a plant that has a higher concentration of it if you really want to extract enough to be usable. But what I read, it was comparing doing straight DMT, like just pure DMT, versus ayahuasca, which contains DMT. They said ayahuasca is much safer. It's a much more pleasant experience. It's got other ingredients in it that possibly interact with the DMT, possibly mitigate some of the more negative side effects you get with the DMT. So ayahuasca is different. It's not just DMT. It's other stuff in there too. Pure DMT can give you crazy visions and, intense, psychotropic experiences and whatnot. Straight, pure DMT can be quite alarming if you do too much of it. Steve told me a story about he did one hit out of a bowl. He had a powdered stuff that they smoked. He said he did one hit and he spent the next 30 minutes just staring at something, and everybody, he finally came around when he realized everybody was just laughing and pointing at him. And finally all the laughter sort of snapped him out of it. And then he said he was just completely spaced out for another half an hour, and then it was just over and gone. It only lasts about an hour. So again, I don't know exactly what's in this mushroom syrup I drink, but it's definitely something. It's definitely not vitamin B and fucking lion's mane mushroom that they list on the ingredients. There's other stuff in there that's doing shit. I don't know if it's synthetic. I don't know if it's really the Mimosa hostilis root bark. Again, I've got that from AI searches. There's nothing on the website that specifically tells you what's in the mushroom, syrup. It says it's all natural. It says there's nothing synthetic in it or anything like that. So I don't know. Whatever it is, it's great. I fucking love this stuff. No, Van Gogh had all kind of psychological issues. He was a fucking mess. And when he cut his ear off and sent it to a woman, basically as a, token of his esteem. Again, seriously psychologically disturbed. It wasn't a bad night on Wormwood. That's ridiculous. He had serious mental issues. And again, the idea of cutting his ear off, people speculate that's what, where that might have come from, him hearing voices and stuff. And there is reason to believe, based on his writings and what people knew about him and whatnot, that he did hear voices. And so again, it all sort of lines up of he was hearing voices and shit. And so that's probably why he cut his ear off. Drinking a lot of, and he drank absinthe. And so drinking a lot of absinthe probably didn't help. Being an alcoholic is never a good idea when you already have mental issues. Oh, let's see. All right, I don't know what MTE is. I don't know what POG is. Never had valerian root. I have heard of valerian root. I'm with you on that. Yeah, that's what they said about the, well, not the emotional reset part, but they said that the DMT was really intense, but it was very short lived, 30 to 60 minutes tops, and it was over with. Which again leads me to believe there's something else going on in here, because this is about a 6-hour ride. From the time I take it to the time I feel perfectly normal again is about 6 hours. After 4.5 hours, if I took a significant amount of it, like enough that I wouldn't want to drive, after about 4.5 to 5 hours, I'd be perfectly okay driving. And by 6 hours, it's completely done. But it ain't real quick. It's not an up and down 1 hour experience. I'll be riding this mushroom stuff till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning tonight. Well, all our brains are, I always tell everybody and always try to remind everybody, all our brains are is just chemical juices and neurotransmitters and shit sloshing around. Every thought you have, every emotion you have, everything you feel, every time you get angry, what your personality is, that's all just brain chemicals. None of the shit is choices. It's brain chemicals. And, when your brain chemicals ain't working right, you suffer from things like ADHD and whatnot. And so people like me, I've spent my life basically self-medicating. I noticed that when I started vaping the nicotine again, my weed use went way down. I stopped smoking weed almost completely once I started vaping the nicotine again. Again, with the ADHD, getting those constant bumps of a stimulant into my brain actually helps me. I actually feel better now that I'm doing the nicotine again. The weed just didn't give me that. I'm still seeking that constant stimulation for my poor dopamine-starved ADHD brain, but the weed didn't give me that dopamine hit. I was smoking it all day, but it wasn't the medicine I was needing. It turns out nicotine actually serves me better than the marijuana did. So now I just kind of smoke the weed because I enjoy it. It's not so much a medicinal kind of thing for me. And again, never thought the nicotine would be a thing for me, but apparently it is. And again, I lost 10 pounds once I started doing it again, so you can't argue with that. All right, I forgot I'm supposed to be smoking a joint. Hang on. I got to change out the filter again too. Hang on. I got to stop talking when I have shit in my lungs. All right, let me unplug it. Let it drain. We'll put that new filter in, and then we can hang out. I'll spark my joint up once we're done with that, so I don't have to worry about wet hands. I still do smoke weed every day. I'm just not smoking weed. I'm doing this vape juice now, so I'm still getting my THC. I still get high off of that. I'm not smoking the weed so much anymore. Although, as I said, now that I got these cones and I've been rolling these cones, these are really nice. I'm not a joint person, but I'm rapidly becoming a joint person. I'm going through my joint phase, apparently. Oh, what kind of plants do we have around here? I honestly don't know. I mean, we've got the stuff, your basic, marginal stuff, the sedges and sages and grasses, rushes, cattails, all that kind of stuff. In the water, we have milfoil, which is invasive. Obviously, we got lots of algae and all that kind of stuff. We have the kind of algae around here that's called rock snot. It's algae that fixes its own nitrogen, and so it can live in nitrogen-free, completely pristine water. We do have that contaminating some of our bodies of water. That's why we're so careful about moving, boats from different bodies of water, and waders and boots and stuff that you go fishing in. You're supposed to thoroughly clean before other bodies of water. It's because of this rock snot algae. I can't remember the name of it. It's the name of something else too, and I can never remember what the hell the name of it is. I'm going to look that up now because that's going to drive me crazy. But the common name for it is rock snot because it's really like slimy and clumpy. It's gross. All right. Diddymo. This is what it looks like. It's really nasty looking shit. Look, see what I mean? His gills are still moving, so he's still alive, but barely. I probably ought to just do him the favor and flush him. So that's what it looks like when it gets coated all over the bottom, and it just destroys the native algae and plants and stuff like that. It's really problematic. So we do our best to keep it from spreading from area to area. As far as other types of plants, we do have one plant. I don't know what it's called. Um, I see that really commonly. I don't even. It just sends up these little stalks that have little leaves that float on the surface, and little flowers come up off of the leaves. That's probably invasive too. I'm pretty much done with acid. Like I won't trip on LSD anymore, but mushrooms are fun, and you can do doses of mushrooms. It's hard. I mean, I guess you can cut a hit of acid in half or something like that. I wouldn't even know where to get acid. I haven't even seen acid in 25 years. But mushrooms are still fun, and I don't trip like I used to. Like when I was younger, I would trip. You know, the walls would be bending, and the fucking colors would be changing and shifting, and everything would be moving. Um, since I've been eating mushrooms again these last couple of months, I have not eaten enough to get anywhere close to that kind of experience. I'm just eating enough that I got a big grin on my face and everything looks really cool. You know, just right on that edge of, you know, maybe two more mushrooms and I'll be tripping. But it's a nice, comfortable, fun spot to be. And the therapeutic benefit I got when I was taking the mushrooms was amazing. My ADHD became less problematic. You know, the whirlwind of thoughts and the storm clouds in my head cleared up. It eased my depression. It helped me focus and concentrate. My motivational issues, I sort of started having less trouble getting started doing things because getting started doing something is almost fucking impossible for me. It's an ADHD thing. It's just my brain don't work right. After taking the mushrooms, though, again, fairly small doses, not micro doses. A micro dose is so little you won't even feel it. I was definitely experiencing the mushrooms and enjoying myself. But the next day, I felt amazing. I felt better. I'm not taking my afternoon naps. Just so many positive experiences after taking those mushrooms again. So that's what I'm more interested in than like, you know, I don't necessarily want to see the clouds melting and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't mind seeing the clouds changing color a little bit. That might be fun again. But the therapeutic value I was getting out of it was amazing. So I'm definitely into the mushrooms again. All right, let me see. Oh, I got a lot of catching up to do here. I was just talking about peyote to a friend of mine today. I've never eaten peyote. I'm going to disagree with that, Fish and Football. I don't think vapes are nearly as bad for your lungs as actual smoke is. Actual smoke is terrible for your lungs. Vapes haven't been around long enough for us to even know what any kind of long-term effects there is going to be from inhaling propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin. That's the only, all it is propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin. The worst things that I can think about with vapes is if you've got a metal heating element. Current studies show that you're breathing in a lot of heavy metals and stuff if you've got a metal heating element. I use vapes that have ceramic heating elements in it, and so I don't have to worry too much about that either. Yeah, that's the way I always used to smoke joints. I seldom would sit down and smoke one by myself, but with somebody, a joint is a lot more fun. Let's see. I was just talking about tequila the other day too. That is definitely acquired taste, but I acquired it. I had a big run where I was on a tequila kick. It was a couple of years where I drank tequila almost all the time. Good tequila. Cheap tequila is garbage, but good tequila is good. Yeah, it is. It's really gross. It's slimy. It's clumpy. And again, that Didymo, that rock snot, it fixes its own nitrogen. So it does, like, it's not the kind of algae that you'll see an explosion of it if there's a nitrogen, leaking into the water or something like that. A nitrogen spike will cause algal blooms with typical green algae, but this gray, slimy shit fixes its own nitrogen. And so it just does its own thing. And so it's really tough to get on top of. You can't starve it to death because it fixes its own nitrogen. Fly Guy, how are you doing? Got some potent foot snot. I do have some Blue Dream seeds, but I don't actually have any currently growing. But I do still have some Blue Dream seeds. I don't remember. ILGM is where I got them. I Love Growing Marijuana is the website I got them from. I used to get them from a place in Canada years ago, but it's easier. I can just buy them in America now. ILGM or ilovegrowingmarijuana.com is where I got my Blue Dream seeds. Janice. How are you this evening? The only invasive plant I know of around here by name is the milfoil I mentioned earlier. I know we have other stuff around here that's invasive because I've brought stuff home into my tanks and had it identified by other people that told me that's not a native plant, that's an invasive plant. Just because you went and picked it at your local pond doesn't make it a native plant. It just means you got it from your native environment. But we have a lot of plants around here that are invasives. I don't know the names of a lot of them. I haven't even heard about the explosion in Tennessee yet. I'm sure I'll hear about that soon enough, though. Have I seen the moon tonight? Well, you know I haven't. I've been down here since the live stream started. But I can run upstairs and look out the back door real quick. So let me go do that. Is it an interesting moon? I know it was almost full a day or two ago, so I'm guessing it's a big full moon tonight. Nope, no moon out there tonight. And it's clear out. I can see stars. It's that I don't see the moon. I don't even see like the glow of the moon coming through the trees anywhere. So it is probably not moonrise as of yet. Computer, what time is moonrise today?
Moonrise was at 8:39 p.m. today.
So it only happened like an hour ago. So it's still low enough on the horizon that I can't see it. Remember, I live in the woods. That shit's got to be up in the air before I can fucking see it anywhere down on the horizon. And it's just in the woods. I can't, I got to look up to see the moon and the stars and stuff. No, thank you, Dave. Yeah, like I say, it's just too low. I generally don't see the moon until about 11 o'clock at night. It depends. Sometimes the moon comes, moon rises 4 in the afternoon, and by 7:30, I can see it in the evening sky already. But usually, if you get an evening moonrise, I don't see it until hours later. It's got to get well up off the horizon before I can see it where I live. All right, everybody, I'm going to have another swig of my juice here. This is the straight syrup. This isn't watered down. Ugh. That was a big mouthful, too. Between that first dose and that one, that's about half the bottle tonight. It's going to be a good ride later. Woo! And once you get on the ride, you can't get off. It's one of the things with dosing with acid, like you put it on your tongue, and that's it. You're on the ride. You take it off your tongue immediately. It's in you. It doesn't matter. You put that acid on your tongue, and it's in you. All right, let me see where I was. Comet watching. We got a comet going by? It's pretty damn cold here too, Janice. Not freezing, but it's pretty damn cold. No, I didn't know we were getting a nor'easter, but I asked Steve about getting together this weekend, and he said it was supposed to be bad weather. And when I looked, it says rain all the way through Monday. So presumably that's the nor'easter coming. So we need the rain really bad. So I'm not going to complain about it too much, but we do have it on the way. And I've not done any kayaking in like 6 weeks or something. I don't even remember the last time I went out on the kayak. Remember, it's been chilly, at least by my standards. August should be sweltering hot, gross. In August, we had weather that was 72 degrees. Now, I know that sounds nice and lovely, but when you're on the water and you're in the shade and the breeze is blowing, it feels like 65 degrees. I know that's not winter feel, but in August, I should not feel 65 fucking degrees out. 65 degrees, I need to have a jacket on. If I have to wear a jacket, I don't want to be out of my kayak. That's a summertime warm weather activity. That's not a put a jacket on and go do activity. So I haven't been out on my kayak since probably the end of July, maybe middle of August. I was, however, talking to my neighbor today, and he was pointing out how the trees are starting to change, and it's really starting to get pretty out. Then he said, I bet it looks amazing out on the reservoir right now. And that's what I'm going to be doing here soon. If we get any reasonably nice days, I don't mind the jacket weather a little bit in the fall. It's supposed to be cooler, in October or November if I'm out on the water. And so I don't mind dressing up a little bit to go out there once the leaves are changing. I'm not going to go out there wearing a jacket just to look at green leaves. If they're red and gold and yellow, then I'll put a jacket on and I'll go out in the kayak. So hopefully in the next week or so, I'll be able to get back out there. But I've just it's just done for the year for me. My kayak's packed up. It's put away. I just haven't thought about it. It's just sitting there. So I can take it out anytime I want. We've had nice enough weather. But again, I just don't like that cooler weather. I'd rather be I've had this conversation with people before. Would you rather be just a little bit clammy and sweaty and just a little bit on the warm side where you just got that little patina of sweat on you? Or would you rather be just a little bit chilly where you felt like you had to kind of rub your hands together, maybe a little bit of goose pimply? I'll take the warm and sweaty every fucking day of the week and twice on Sunday over feeling a little bit chilly. I fucking hate feeling chilly. I literally carry space heaters around with me and set space heaters near me when my wife likes the house cooler in the winter and I like to be warm. And so I just heat myself. I don't heat the house. I heat myself. I carry space heaters and hand warmers, and I do not like the chilliness. I like Careful with That Axe, Eugene. That's a good song. It's like summer for you, yeah. Yeah, it's already starting to get dark early. Wait till another 3 weeks when the clocks go back. It'll be dark at fucking 5:30. You'd rather be chilled? No, I definitely don't like being cold. I definitely would rather be a little bit warm. No, she doesn't mind. See, she's not like I am. I'm not a big fan of wearing a lot of clothes. She likes bundling up. She wears multiple layers and then puts her fucking big, terry cloth bathrobe around her and, has her big woolly socks on with her slippers. And that's how she sits and watches TV. I don't bundle up that much when I fucking go outside, so she likes being all bundled up like that. In the summertime, we run the house warmer just to save money. We don't run the AC like really cold. We run it at 77 or 78 degrees. It's comfortable, but we're not killing ourselves with the electric bill. Speaking of electric bill, when we stopped using the AC in July, basically, we haven't run our air conditioning since July. It's been so cool. Our electricity bill initially went from around $430, $450. It dropped down to $215 when we stopped using our air conditioner. I mean, it cut the bill in fucking half when we stopped using our air conditioner. And when I saw that, I was just like, holy shit. And so at that time, my tents were my grow tents for my marijuana were all empty, and they're all set up on timers and everything. And so I just let them keep running, even though there was nothing in them. I just didn't feel like resetting the timers and unplugging things and whatever. So I just kind of let them do their thing. It was on, it's been going for years. So I never thought about it. When I saw what turning that air conditioner off did for our electricity bill, I immediately went and shut down all the tents that were empty. And right now, just a couple weeks ago, I started one of my tents back up. So I'm only running one tent instead of three. This month, our electricity bill was $121. Like, that's fucking insane. $121. So, yeah, my grow tents definitely cost about $300 a month to operate. Well, no, not that much, obviously. My grow tents probably cost about $150 to $200 a month to operate. But anyway, back to the original point was in the summertime, we do run the house a little warmer. Not that she likes the warmness. It's just we're trying to save money. And then in the winter, it's the other way around. She also doesn't mind the chilliness because she doesn't mind bundling up, but it also saves us money from not keeping the house 75 degrees. We run the heat at like 72 or something in the winter. And for me, at 72 degrees, I feel like I need to put a long sleeve shirt on or maybe put long pants on or something. 72 is just a little too chilly for me. 74 is where I go from feeling a little chilly to feeling comfortable. And we never run the house at 74 degrees in the winter time. It's always between 70 and 72. And I'm always just a little bit chilly. So that's why I keep all my space heaters and stuff. God damn, I've shed people talking about my electricity bill. Well, I still got 11 of you up there. I had 20 a minute ago. And I never will understand what the topics that I discuss are that just drive people away in droves. Sometimes it's obviously things that I can see people and like, I'm going to hear this shit, and they fucking leave. But other times I'm talking about the most innocuous stuff, and I look up and like half the people I had 3 minutes ago are gone. And I don't know why. I just drive people away from certain topics or whatever. All I was talking about was my electricity bill. Now, maybe that was just boring and people don't give a fuck about my electricity bill, but goddamn, it's a conversation. It moves around. We talk about different things. Give me a minute, Oh, well. At peak winter for us, the sunset is usually like around 4:43 or 4:45, something like that, is sunset. So it's twilight by 4:15. And again, here at the house, as the sun's going down behind the trees, we lose the sun long before the actual sunset. So in the peak of winter, middle of December, end of December, it's pretty much dark outside my house by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We've got the porch light on and whatnot. It fucking sucks. I couldn't imagine living in one of those places like Norway or whatever that it's, you know, dark almost all the time for a couple of months of the year, and just no fucking way could I tolerate that. Iceman at the planet indeed. How are you this evening? Oh, fireplaces are awesome. I wish I had a fireplace or even a wood burning stove would be awesome. Closest I get is my diesel fuel burning kerosene heater. Yeah, I get pretty depressed in the winter too. I'm hoping my mushrooms will alleviate my depression and I'll get through a better winter this year. Yeah, exactly. Up in Scotland, you get up really on those northern latitudes. It gets dark so early, and then you get into the really northern latitudes up around the Arctic Circle, and it's just dark. I couldn't deal with that. The upshot is you get a lot of damn sunlight in the summertime. The sun don't go down till fucking 11 o'clock at night. All right, Dave, if you're still there, I'll say good night. The colds of San Diego. I know it must be freezing in San Diego. But I always say, and I learned this when I moved to Florida, I never give anybody shit about saying things like that. Like, oh my God, it's so cold here today. It's, 55 degrees. Well, if you live in fucking El Paso, 55 degrees is cold. You're not used to 55 degrees. That feels cold to you. And it's okay to say that. Somebody that lives in fucking Buffalo, New York doesn't have to make fun of the person that lives in a warmer climate. And the real time I learned that was when I had a neighbor move in next to me one year, and he was from Buffalo, New York. And that motherfucker never shut the fuck up when it snowed. Every time it snowed, it did not matter how much snow we got. He had to talk about how it was like a pussy ass snow. And you should see the snow we got up in Buffalo. I'm like, I know, dude, it snows a lot in fucking Buffalo. This isn't Buffalo. Shut the fuck up about the snow in Buffalo. All he ever talked about was 3 feet. We still didn't even close schools. I can't believe you're closing schools with only a foot of snow on the ground. Shut the fuck up, dude. It's a foot of snow on the ground. Schools are closed, and they're going to be for several days if a foot of snow is on the ground. It depends on where you come from. If you live in San Diego, a 55-degree day is a day you're going to fire up the fireplace. That's chilly to you. Again, when I lived in Florida, I was wearing a t-shirt. Other people had fucking hats and gloves on. It was 55 or 60 degrees out. They were cold. I thought, this is nice, So it's all just a matter of what you're used to. Oh, let's see. Yeah, that's what I almost said that same exact thing to my wife when she showed me the electricity bill. I'm like, $121. They're giving away free electricity. Like that may as well be free. You keep it at 63 all winter? No, fuck that. I'd be building a fire in the kitchen if the house was 63 degrees. Oil is expensive. Zini always calls himself an eldritch entity. Yeah, fireplace makes for good ambiance. I have a fake fireplace. It's a space heater that looks like a fireplace, and it really looks like a fireplace. I will actually sometimes, again, for the ambiance of it, you don't get the crackle and the smell and all that stuff you get from it. But just to have it in the room almost tricks your brain into thinking it's warmer in the room than it is, just because it looks like this really realistic fireplace. You're not allowed to burn anything in Scotland? That's weird. Pig leg joint. Nice. That is awesome. Yeah, downdraft will fuck up a fireplace. Got some mosquito fern. I don't even know what mosquito fern is, but it sounds cool. No, I've never fly fished. That's one of those things that you can't just kind of try unless you like have a buddy that fly fishes and he can let you use, his equipment and show you how to do it or whatever. But the idea of going out and buying even some really low budget fly reels and rods and stuff like that, and even if I just purchase flies rather than making my own, there's the whole learning curve of how, what am I going to watch tutorials and go out in the backyard and practice? I mean, I guess I could. It's just one of those things. It looks really fun. It looks neat. I like the idea of it. I've just never done it, and I've just never really had the opportunity to try it. Yeah, if I never saw snow again the rest of my life, I would be perfectly okay with that. Oh, God damn it. Get back here. And God damn it, come back. I keep making you guys go away. All right, I'm back. Yeah, I don't care about driving in snow. I got 4-wheel drive and I know how to do it. I used to have fun driving in the snow. Now I don't do it just because if it's snowy and shit out, I just don't want to go out in it. It's not fun for me anymore. That was the day I knew I was an adult, when snow stopped being fun and became a pain in the ass. That's an adult point of view rather than a child's point of view. I guess there are some adults out there that like the snow too, but I forgot I was supposed to light this. I also forgot we got one more filter cycle to go, so let's get that done. I'm running out of space to stack up my old filter material here. Let me do this. All right. I said I was going to light this joint after I did this, but I forgot I was supposed to do this. And so, oh no, I did it. I just forgot to plug it back in. So we're good. I told you these mushroom juice would start affecting me. Now, this is the kind of thing that I can't really fuck it up too bad. It's just going to sit there and run while I sit here and chat. So I'm not too worried about getting distracted. But I knew that was going to happen once that mushroom juice started kicking in. The first stuff is already well on me. I'm waiting for that second swig I took to start rolling on, and then we're going to wrap it up and call it a night, because that's when it's really going to take off. I'm telling you, man, these cones are so much nicer than joints. I am going to cough a lot, because whenever I smoke, I cough. I don't ever like when it snows. If I never saw snow again the rest of my life, I'd be perfectly happy. The idea of paying money to go on a vacation where it's all snowy, that blows my mind. Vacation, you go to the beach or you go camping or you go somewhere warm and enjoyable. Like going to a snowy place to do snowy things is just, that breaks my brain. I don't understand why anybody does that. I know different people enjoy different things, but that's just one of those things that's completely alien to me. I can understand wanting to jump out of an airplane, skiing, and nope, can't. I don't understand why anybody would want to do that. Snowboard, nope. Don't understand why anybody would want to do that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't do much jig fishing. When I fish, I have a really sort of specific mentality about the way I fish. Oh yeah, if you can just day trip up into the mountains, that might be different. When I fish, I use like a couple different lures. I use crankbaits mostly. Sometimes I'll use like a rubber worm or something like that. I like top water. I'll do a lot of different top water. I like the whopper plopper and buzz baits and stuff like that. But when I fish, it's not so much about catching the fish. I know that sounds dumb. That's kind of the point of going fishing. But for me, it's the activity of fishing. Like you say, it's getting out, it's being on the water. I'm in my kayak. It's an activity. Instead of just sitting there looking around at stuff, I'm doing something. I'm fishing, I'm casting. And I'm not one of those people that is determined to catch a fish. And if this lure is not working, I'll try a different lure, a different presentation, or, I'll try going into deeper water or go to this area and then go try that area. I don't like that's too much fucking work for me. I go into areas that I fish. I know I can catch fish there. I know there's, fish available. And I use the lures I like. I fish in the style I like. I usually fish out away from shore and then in towards shore, and I fish along the rocks and the fallen trees and where cover is, trying to pull the bass out. And if that's not working, then I just do something else. I just go walk in the woods, or I paddle my kayak somewhere or whatever. It's not like, well, damn it, that didn't work, let's try this different approach, or let's go to a different location. I threw a line out for a little while and I had some fun fishing. If I caught some fish while I was doing that, that was great. And if I was catching fish, I'd continue doing it because that makes it fun. But if I don't catch any fish, I do it for a little while, and then when it gets kind of boring because I'm not catching anything, I go do something else. It's not like the goal is I'm going to come out of here with fish today. No matter what I have to do, I'm going to find those motherfuckers and catch one. I don't approach it like that. That takes all the fun out of it for me. It's something to do, and if I catch some fish, that makes it extra fun. There is a whole thing called Winter Olympics, and you know how much of the Winter Olympics I watch? I'll let you guess. Oh, Eugene, have you been here? I don't know if you said it popped in earlier or not. If I missed you, sorry for not saying hello, but thanks for hanging out and enjoy your evening. Ice fishing Olympics. I do watch curling. I will admit that. I forgot that's a winter sport. I do like curling. See, I don't think of ice skating and like indoor winter sport. Like that's an ice rink. You can go ice skating in the summertime. Like that's a different thing. I don't even think of that as a winter sport. To a winter sport involves cold fucking weather, being outside and in the snow. The cross country skiing, the biathlon where they ski and they shoot and they do all that stuff. It's interesting, but I don't pay attention to it. Curling, on the other hand, I'm fascinated by. I think curling is fucking cool. I also like billiards. Like there's games of not so much physical prowess. I'm not that big into the physical prowess guy. I'm not impressed by the big macho dudes that can jump far and run fast and stuff like that. So what? Who cares? The thinking games where you got to like calculate angles and precise, placement of things to block opponents, and you're playing strategy and all that kind of stuff. Those are the kind of games and stuff that I find much more fascinating. Again, like billiards or snooker or something like that. Snooker's a really cool game. If you ever watch people play snooker, I've never played it, but it's a cool game. Curling is on that list for me. Curling is fucking awesome. Not a big shuffleboard fan, I'll admit. Shuffleboard's like the budget brand version of curling, I guess, but I'm not a big shuffleboard fan. Christmas Tree Park. Of course, I've heard of Christmas Tree Park. Go Terps. Yeah, I know there's a lot of ice skating that occurs on lakes and stuff in the winter too, because people can do that. But curling teams usually curl in curling arenas, it's like a skating rink or whatever. They have a bunch of lanes, like a bowling alley, except it's ice. And then of course the Olympics are always, an indoor event. I've never ever seen the Olympic curling competition held on a lake before. That would be kind of cool though. The Master of Ice. Don't necessarily know I'd want to be called that nowadays. Yeah, I actually watched a video about the making of the curling stones, and they are very, very specific stones from a very, very specific quarry. Like they're a lot goes into those stones. They're a precise weight, the way they're drilled, the way they're shaped, all of that stuff. It all comes from this one quarry, if I believe right, or possibly one region. I don't know if it's a single quarry, but it's this type of rock that's in Scotland. Yeah, there's like a bunch of community ponds around here, and I fished in them before. You can usually do well in those ponds in the spring and early summer because they stock them, and the fish are still not overfed. They're not, they're still hungry enough that you can still catch them. They're not used to seeing fishing lures. A fish can only get caught so many times before it stops biting on artificial lures and stuff like that. It becomes very wary. So by midsummer, the few fish that haven't been caught out of those ponds are still in there, but they're the ones that are still in there for a reason. They're the ones that aren't biting on these artificial lures and stuff. And so I kind of gave up. Those ponds look like they'd be good sitting targets, but usually, especially like a busy place like Christmas Tree Park, just so many people fish there. And we had ponds around here, particularly up in Manchester. I used to go catch sunfish out of there, and I used to catch sunfish that big in there. I used to have some in my tank, and I regret the day I took that back. I had a big pumpkin seed. It was gorgeous. And pumpkin seeds, you can't find them around here, but I had this pumpkin seed that I caught out of the pond up at Basler. And after I put it back, thinking, whatever, I'll just catch a different fish and I can always, swap them out and do different stuff or whatever. And eventually they put a sign up saying that nobody was allowed to keep any fish. You could fish, but it had to be catch and release only, because the poor people were going up to the ponds and they're taking their family with them, and they would just fish all day and they would just keep everything they caught. It didn't matter how small it was. They needed food, and so they were going out and collecting food out of these ponds. And again, no harm, no problem with Matt there. But it's also supposed to be a community fishing pond where people can go catch fish. And if they're, they can't just keep restocking the pond every fucking week and then having it get fished out, these people taking all the fish home to eat. So unfortunately, the poor people are no longer allowed to go to those ponds and catch their own food. There's other places they can go fish if they want. But those community ponds are kind of designated as places for people to take their family and fish and whatnot. You're not supposed to clean them out, at the first week that the fish are put in there. So they're hit or miss. Like I say, you get to those ponds early in the spring, you can usually do pretty well at them, but by midsummer, they're not a lot going on anymore. I don't know if I've ever played tetherball. I know I've whacked the tetherball around a few times with some people, but I'm never really sure what the goal of the game was. I don't know what the rules were. I didn't really know how to play. Yeah, when I was a kid, we used to get, even the streams would freeze over. Like fast moving streams would get a foot of ice on top of them. Now we're lucky if we get a cold enough snap to freeze them over completely. It's usually just ice around the edges and ice on the rocks and stuff. And I grew up 40 miles south of here in a completely, it's like a different climate zone where I used to live based on where I am now. And we still don't get the ice like we used to. The reservoir used to freeze over solid, and like you could drive your car across the reservoir back in the day. Now it doesn't even freeze over. It just gets frozen around the edges a little bit, and that's it. Just ice patches. Yeah, they don't even let them feed themselves. Yeah, I'd forgotten about tetherball too. Like I say, tetherball is a pole with a rope on it, and there's a ball tethered to the end of the rope. And I think the idea is to get it to wrap around the pole in your direction. So your opponent stands across from you, and you hit the ball this way. And as it goes around, they try to hit it back to you. If they miss it, it wraps around the pole. And, you know, the more you wrap it in your direction around the pole, the more you're scoring or whatever. The goal is to get the ball all the way wrapped around the pole, I think. But you can hit it up or down and have it swoosh around this way and go around at weird different angles. It's a cool game. But like I say, when I was a kid, I was never really sure what we were doing with it. We would always just hit the ball around, and, you know, that was roughly what we tried to do. I tried to hit it that way. You tried to prevent it from going past you, and you tried to hit it back my way. And so that's how I think you play tetherball, but don't quote me on that. Oh, I've gotten fucking. You get hit in the face with that tetherball, dude. It's fucking violent. Trust me. Yeah, I don't know how else you could play that game. That's just it just kind of seems obvious when you see what, you know, what it is. I didn't really know what else you could do with that as far as have it be some sort of challenge. I liked, you know, we'd get 2 or 3 people hitting it in the same direction, you know, speeding it up as it went past them and, you know, wrap around that pole really fast. Again, we didn't really know what we were doing. We would just go have fun whacking the ball around. I never once ever played tetherball like it was an actual competition. But my assumption has always been that was what you were supposed to be doing. All right, let me check on my filter here. I need to swirl the water back up. It's barely even filtering anymore. Actually, I'm going to start wrapping it up. It's already after 10 o'clock, so we can wind down. Let me go give the pond another good swirl. Let's swirl down from this end this time. Got to be careful. I'm thrashing my arm around in there. I got like pieces of wood with sharp points and stuff on them. I whack my hand into that, it would hurt. Oh yeah, we're already getting a lot more crud building up. Yeah, we'll let that run until that one's full. And when that one's done, we'll call it a night. Shouldn't take too long. But as I said, it's already after 10 o'clock, so we'll start winding it down for the evening. Where the hell did I point you? There we go. Tops and marbles. I don't know. I remember marbles. I never played marbles. That was another game that I wasn't too much of a fan of. Pogs, I'm kind of familiar with, but I'm too old for that. That was after my time. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the Pogs are. My game, that when I was a kid, that was I kind of think is similar to Pogs, was a game called Tiddlywinks. Does anybody know how to play Tiddlywinks? Tiddlywinks is quarters for children. Um, Tiddlywinks was a game that had, I'm got to stop saying Tiddlywinks because it sounds ridiculous. You had, if I'm not mistaken, they were little round plastic discs. And then you had, it was literally a guitar pick was your, I don't know what the hell the name of the thing was. But what you did, you had a little cup that was set in the middle of the table, and you would drop your tiddlywinks on the table and they'd scatter out. And you would take the guitar pick and you would press down on the edge of the plastic until it popped off and it would flip the thing up in the air. And the goal was to flip it into the cup. That was Tiddlywinks. And it was a fun game. I used to like playing that. And who can forget stick and hoop? When I was a kid, stick and hoop was all the rage. All right, Cornish, thanks for hanging out tonight. Yeah, Jax was another one we played, hula hoop. You've played Tiddlywinks before? Does anybody remember Pickup Sticks? Pickup Sticks was another game, and it sounds as exactly Pickup Sticks. They came in a can, like a Pringles can, and it was a bunch of plastic sticks that were, 10 inches long or something, and you hold them all in your hand about a foot off the table, and you would just let it go and drop it, and they would all just fall. And the idea was each person would have a different color, and of course all the sticks were different colors, and you had to remove your sticks without moving any other sticks. If one of the other sticks moved even just the tiniest bit, your turn was over and somebody else got to try to take. So if you got lucky and some of your sticks were laying on top, you could just gently lift them off. If your stick had another one laying over top of it, if it was kind of propped up on another one, you could slide it out really carefully. Sort of similar to Jenga kind of thing. And then the idea was if you got all your colored sticks out before everybody else did, you won the game or whatever. So that was Pickup Sticks. I don't remember Rocks and Sticks. The frog thing might have actually been like an open mouth, and you were supposed to flip your tiddlywinks into the frog's mouth or something like that. Maybe it wasn't just a cup on the table. Let me look that up and see if it was actually like a frog that you flipped it into the mouth of. It's a parlor game where the players use a large disc, a squidger, to flip smaller discs called the winks into a central pot. Yeah, so that's the way I played it when I was a kid. It was just you put a glass in the middle of the table. I don't even think the game came with a glass. You just used a bowl or something, a little condiment dish or something you put in the middle of the table. It might have come with a little plastic dish or something. I don't know. I don't remember, but I don't specifically remember a frog. But I do vaguely remember commercials on TV where kids were playing a similar game to that. And it was like the little plastic discs were shaped like flies or something. And they would try to flip the flies into the frog's mouth. Same basic principle, but I think that was something slightly different. Like stickball. Did anybody ever play step ball when they were a kid? That's a city thing. You gotta if you lived in a city somewhere, especially a city like Baltimore City that's famous for its stoops. I don't know if you know that or not. Baltimore City is famous for its they're called stoops. They're not really front porches. You walk out the door, and most of them are marble, and it's Baltimore's marble stoops. It's like a 3 or 4 foot step, and then it goes down a set of steps to the sidewalk. And everybody in the summertime, when it's hot as fuck inside, everybody just sits out on the stoop. And sitting on the stoop in the summertime is like a thing to do in Baltimore. And so those steps of those stoops were used in playing step ball. It was like, a baseball sort of game, run the bases, catch the ball, tag the person out sort of thing. But instead of a batter or something like that, you took a tennis ball and you threw it against the steps and bounced it off the steps. And based on how you threw it at the steps and where you hit the steps, you could get it to bounce high or get it to bounce straight back out into the street. You could put some spin on it and you get it to kick that way or this way. And so basically you were the pitcher and the hitter based on how you threw the ball. You'd throw the ball and then you'd be the one that would run the bases. After like that was your shot, you'd throw the ball, and then when everyone was chasing the ball, you would run the bases. So I did play that sometimes when I was a kid. I'd forgotten all about step ball. Never played Red Rover, but I definitely played Smeared the Queer. Janice, you're back. Wall ball, okay. Kids probably make up the same games everywhere, whether they're universal or not. I don't know. Soccer, obviously, you give just something to kick around and 2 goals, and you got soccer. But the idea of step ball and wall ball, that sounds about right. Yeah, I'd kick the can. That was my favorite when I was a kid. We used to play kick the can all the time. All right, everybody, let me finish. I gotta keep lighting this damn joint. We also used to play a game called Flashlight. Or I guess if you're in the UK, you'd call it Torch. It was sort of like a hide and seek game, but there was no one seeker, and you were all seekers and you were all hiders. You played at night, and of course, when I was a kid, the neighborhood was our playing ground. All the neighbors' backyards and everything. You could hide anywhere. Christ, I hid under people's porches, on their fucking roofs. But the idea of Flashlight is it's kind of like hide and seek, except if all you do is hide, you're never going to win because you have to catch other people. So you have to move around and find other people. And the idea is you spot them before they can see you, and you turn your flashlight on and you light them up. And if you can hit them with your flashlight, you yell flashlight, when you hit them. And if you get them in your spotlight and light them up, they're out. You got them. So you could be getting ready to flashlight somebody else, and then blam, all of a sudden you're all lit up because somebody else saw you. So it's kind of like a sniper, sort of seek and find, hide from the other one while they're trying to get you. And if you had 4 or 5 people playing, it got really interesting of strategy and sneaking around and remembering, where people were hiding. And, I saw them over there before, and they might have moved around the back of the house now. And so we used to like playing that. That was a fun one. That was a thinking game. That was a stealthy, cautious, sneaking around kind of game at night, when kids were allowed to go out at night. Had to come in when the streetlights went on, as we all know. But that was just to check in and have dinner, and then you could go back out after dark. I usually had to be in by like 11. Once I was a teenager, and then the weekends it was midnight. If I was out and around in the neighborhood, if I was out, I had to be home usually by 10 or 11. But if I was just out in the yard, and my parents didn't fucking care how late I stayed out, I was in the backyard. That's home as far as they're concerned. Being outside isn't, not home. It's just, he's in the yard instead of in his bedroom. But I didn't have a bedtime. I went to bed when I felt like going to bed. I never had that kind of upbringing. We never had a normal dinner time. Never did any of that normal stuff. Well, I can't say never. Torch sounds cooler. Yeah, no internet and no devices and all that stuff. You found fun in other ways. Remember, when I was a kid, stick and hoop was the big thing. I'm kidding about that, of course. You have to go back to the black and white days for stick and hoop. Yeah, it is a fun game, Janice. I enjoyed the hell out of playing Flashlight. Yep, night games in the summertime or going out collecting lightning bugs. That was a popular thing to do in the summer when I was a kid. Go out, get a jar, and collect lightning bugs. You have a whole jar full of glowing lightning bugs. Damn kids these days, get off my lawn. Spin the bottle. That's a different kind of game. Truth or dare. God, we didn't have internet or computer. Well, we had computers when I was, in middle school. We got our introduction to computers because that was apparently going to be the big new thing that, people were going to have computers in their house someday. And so you better learn how to use one. We had floppy disks. I learned how to load a floppy disk and boot a hard drive with a floppy disk in it when I was in 7th grade. Christ, I remember the introduction of fucking pocket calculators. I go so far back. Not that they hadn't been around, but basically you had to be an engineer. Like, you didn't have a pocket calculator unless you were an engineer or a fucking accountant or something, If you worked on a job site where you had to do a lot of math, you might carry a pocket calculator. That wasn't a normal thing, though. Like, once the solid state, the microchip got created, like, all hell broke loose with the electronics and stuff. Pretty soon they were giving away, like, you could buy boxes of cereal that had calculator watches. They were a big thing for a while. If you watch or read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, he often goes on about digital watches. And that's kind of the point he's making, is people being fascinated by gadgets. If you watch the updated version in 2005, they don't talk about digital watches, but he's always got a cell phone. He's always checking his cell phone. And it's the same idea that it's like this new little electronic device that everybody's fucking fascinated by, but it's just a stupid little device. So digital watches back in the late 70s really became a thing. Like, you were fucking cool if you had the digital watch on, By the mid 80s, however, you could get digital watches with a calculator on them in cereal boxes. I had them when I was a kid. That's how common they became. But I'd watched that whole scene usher in from, you had to be an accountant to have a calculator to you got free calculators on digital watches in boxes of cereal within a decade. I wish they'd give away fucking smartphones and boxes of cereal. I waited a long goddamn time to be able to say back in my day, and I say it as often as I can now. You had the 5-inch floppy disk for your first computer? Yeah, we learned that in school when I was in elementary or middle school, 7th grade. Tape recorder. I do remember 8 tracks, but they're a little bit before my time. When I was a kid, obviously when you're 2, you don't have your own 8-track player. But by the time I was 7 or 8, I had a little radio that had a little cassette player in it, and cassettes were the thing. But 8-tracks were still around. Cars still commonly had 8-track players in them when I was a kid. I had an uncle that had an 8-track player, and whenever I was over there, it was the 8-tracks we would listen to. But I personally never had an 8-track player. I started at the cassette phase of the musical development. So I saw cassettes, then that went to the CDs, and eventually it went to like the little MP3 players, and now I just listen to my music on YouTube through a Bluetooth speaker. So again, anybody that wants to go back to the good old days or whatever, fucking have a good time, but I'm going to stay right the hell where I am. Yeah, we didn't have a computer either. We couldn't afford that shit. I didn't get an Atari 2600 until like 2 years after it came out and the price came down. Yeah, we had that really that crazy long cord on the phone so you could walk around with it. Four-track, wow, that's really going back. I thought four-track was done. That was like studio stuff. That was for like sound recording and studio booths and stuff like that, wasn't it? Were there 4-track players that you could buy and listen, like go out and get the new Carpenters album on the 4-track? I don't think I've ever heard of that before. I'm again fully aware of the 8-tracks. I remember them. You can actually still find 8-tracks every now and again. If you go to like a Goodwill or a thrift store or something, there'll be some basket in the back. It's got a bunch of old cassettes and shit in it. And every now and again, you'll come across a couple of 8-tracks back in there. What anybody ever would do with them, I have no idea. Or why anybody would buy one, maybe other than to bring home and show their kids. Like remember that thing I was talking about? This is one of them. I paid 20 cents for it, just to bring it home and show it to you. But otherwise, I can't imagine anybody still has a functioning 8-track player. I guess maybe some people do, but those people aren't buying 8-tracks that they find in bins at the fucking Goodwill. If you've still got a functioning 8-track player, you're probably somebody that still has your whole collection of 8-tracks and all that, I'm going to get through this fucking joint before the show's over. I keep talking and it keeps going out on me. I'm really just waiting for this filter to finish up. It's getting there. It's black across the bottom, and the water is starting to build up a little bit, so it should be a few more minutes, and we'll call it good. It is 10:30 after all. I was going to try to wrap up around 10. Heavyweight. Yeah, I know what the 4-track and the 8-track means and everything. I just didn't know they made 4-track that you could purchase. I've just never seen that as like again, going out and buying the latest Carpenters album on the 4-track with the 4-track player. I've just never heard of that before, unless you're saying that they still use the same cassette. It's just 4-track, tape in it rather than an 8-track tape. All right, Iceman, thanks for hanging out. Good to see you again. You're having a Dunning-Kruger moment. No, Marison's not going to affect your cycle. I wouldn't worry about it. Absolutely 100% make sure you put an air stone in the tank if you don't already have one. If you already got an air stone, that's fine, but put an air stone in the tank before you medicate. Probably not a bad idea to put the air stone in an hour before you medicate. Really get the tank as balanced as it's going to be gas exchange wise, and then do your medication and leave the fucking air stone in there until you finish the medication and done a water change. and all that stuff. As long as that medication's in the tank, keep an air stone in there. All right, I'm calling this good on this joint. I'm not going to light it again. Is it a sponge filter that puts a lot of bubbles into the water? You really want good gas exchange. If it's just kind of like some bloop bloop bubbles coming up in the corner or something like that, I would still throw an air stone in there. I've got a air pump and stone on it that's not dedicated to any tank. I just keep that for when I need to do something on a tank. If it's a tank that doesn't have vigorous air stone activity in it already, I'll throw that in for a couple days while the medication's in there or whatever. It's just really, really important to have as much gas exchange as possible. So if you've got a good vigorous column of bubbles and you're confident that you've got a lot of gas exchange going on in the water, then you should be okay. But I would definitely, again, make sure you've got as much gas exchange as possible. A lot of medications involve oxidation, and that oxidation is the oxygen it's getting, it's pulling it out of the water. And so depending on what you put in there, chemical wise, something like ChemiClean absolutely is using oxidation as its method of killing the bacteria and stuff. And so it just pulls all the oxygen out of the water and your fish can die. And it can just throw the balance of your tank out of whack. Always put an air stone if you're doing any kind of medication or dosing it with anything. Just always put an air stone in it. Better safe than sorry. Not everything needs it, but just do it. Just do it. It's safer, again, just better safe than sorry. All right, let me at least get on up here into first positions and we'll start winding it down tonight. I wore my special nipple shirt for everybody tonight. You like that? Usually charge extra for that, but you guys get it for free. That's how much I love you all. All right, let me unplug this. And we'll get the pump pulled out of here. So I use a pretty significant pump. That thing moves a lot of damn water. All right, put that in the shower stall so if it leaks, it doesn't do any harm. And then we'll get this last pad out of here. Actually, I can just leave it sitting in there. I'll just let them all drain on top of the screen. I'll get them out of here tomorrow. Let me get my hands dried off here. All right. Start winding this down for the night. Yes, they're called tassels. No, you're talking about pasties. If you're just talking about the little stars that go over the nips, that's pasties. The tassels are the ones that have the tassels hanging down that they can twirl around and spin and all that stuff. I still do. I still work out a little bit. I've just been kind of slacking off lately. I don't know why. I just haven't been doing it nearly as much. I still do sit-ups fairly regularly. But I haven't been doing the weightlifting too much. And you're not kidding. I don't know if it's imported steel or if it's the tariffs or what the fuck it is. But the last time I looked at the weights, they were really expensive. The cheapest way you're going to be able to do it is to just buy a bar and then buy individual plates rather than buying, individual weighted dumbbells and all that kind of stuff. And then that way, as you need to make a sort of initial purchase to get all the sort of basic set, but you don't need to buy all of them. Just get the basic set. And then as you increase in strength, you can just buy a couple more plates at a time and just build your collection of plates. And eventually you'll get more. But I was looking at them at the Walmart the other day, and it was like $25 or $30 for a little fucking 7-pound plate or something. I used to get 10 or 20-pound plates for that kind of money. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you on that one, but they're getting crazy expensive. Are you buying the? A friend of mine uses dumbbells a lot too, and he has like 5 pound dumbbells, 7.5 pound dumbbells, 10 pound dumbbells. I have a bar that's got the nuts on the end, and you can just add plates to it and just screw the nuts back on. And then I just buy the individual weight plates. And if there's two brands that are fairly cheap, man, it's been a while since I've lifted these up. Is it a dead fish? It is not a dead fish. So that is my weight plate or my dumbbell. And CAP is one brand that you'll be able to get fairly cheap. And I can't think of the name of the other one. I actually picked this up because I want to try to see if I can read the names on them. I know CAP makes a inexpensive. Again, you're just buying a steel plate. You don't need to like spend a lot of money on the expensive ones. This one, I don't know if I can see the name on this one either. I think these are the CAP actually. This is what I hold this up over my head when I do my sit-ups. So that's 20 pounds there. That's two 10-pound plates together. And I think these are the CAP plates. They're like a gray painted one, where the other one, God, the name of that's going to drive me crazy now. The way they're stacked together, the name is on the inside, not the outside. Let me pull one of these plates off and just look at it. What does that say? Yes for All. That's the other brand name. That's a really low budget one if you're looking on Walmart. And it's yes, the number 4, and then the word all. So either CAP or Yes for All is going to be your low budget plates. But even again, CAP is what they sell at the Walmart. And the last time I looked at them, you're not wrong. The price was way fucking higher than the last time I saw them. But those are still going to be your cheapest brands. There's some out there that, they're twice as expensive. And I still don't understand. It's a metal plate. It's just a steel plate with a fucking hole in the middle. Why is it twice the cost of this metal plate with a hole in the middle? Oh, that's good to hear, Janice. Oh, yeah. If you're buying the individual barbells, you'll save a ton of money if you buy just plates and a bar. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass because if you do, like one exercise where you're doing this and you use 20 pounds and then you're doing your curls where you use 30 pounds, you got to unscrew a thing, and you got to put a plate on or take a plate off and screw it back on. So, I know it's nice to be able to set these down and then just pick those up. It's why I go fishing with multiple fishing rods. So I don't have to retie a bunch of shit. I can set this rod down and pick that rod up. But having the plates, it's just going to be your budget way of doing it. That's ultimately why I decided to do it. And it's space saving. Instead of having I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of room. And so having a bunch of different sets of barbells around, or dumbbells around is I don't have the room for it, but I can put a stack of plates, and then just pull the plates off the top as I need them, so that's a good space saver too. Hand forged and heat treated. Yeah, but my point is, I could understand that if you were buying like the frame of your car and you wanted one that was the better quality, et cetera, et cetera. These are weight plates. I'm lifting a heavy thing. Like, I don't give a fuck if it's pig iron. If it weighs 10 pounds and it's round with a hole in the middle of it, it's what it is. Like, I don't need some fucking hand forged, built in the mines of the dwarves, piece of metal with a hole in the middle. So if people want to pay that kind of money because it's got the cool brand name that makes them look like they got a lot of money to spend, and that's their business. They can spend their money however they want. For me, the CAP or the Yes for All, maybe Yes for All is a Walmart brand too. I got one off of Walmart and I got one off of Amazon. And the same one I've bought at Walmart, I've also bought off of Amazon, because Amazon obviously sells a bunch of different shit. Yeah, I couldn't do like going to a gym and a trainer and all that kind of stuff. I got to do my own thing, my own way when I feel like it. Oh, that's not a bad idea. See, I don't do the community things and the Facebook stuffs and all that kind of stuff. I have people tell me all the time when I'm talking about stuff, why don't you just go in Marketplace? I'm like, what the fuck is a Marketplace? And they're like, Facebook Marketplace. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm aware that that exists. Hey, Robert. I am aware that that exists. I've never used it. I have a Facebook page. I probably have more than one Facebook page, but I haven't used it in so long that I wouldn't even know how to get on it if I had to. So I just don't really consider myself as having a Facebook page. Oh, I get. Well, what you're saying probably is true. There's only, again, maybe it's just a brand name thing, and it's literally, here's your $5 piece of metal that this company's selling for $20, but here's your $5 piece of metal that this company with a special brand name is selling for $40. I assume there's a difference in the plates, hand forged versus, sheet metal stamped down or whatever. I don't fucking know. But yeah, I definitely go for the low budget. I'm almost the kind of person that if jugs of water, gallon jugs of water were heavy enough, I would just use gallon jugs of water and do my weightlifting with that. That'd be fine with me. Buckets of rocks, that'll work too, but the handles hurt your hands and the buckets break. And so it's easier just to get some, if you're going to do it regularly, get a bar, get your plates and do it that way. That's the best way to do it. I can't. I have 35 pounds on the barbell I just showed you. I have two of those. It's 35 pounds of plates. But the bar and the nuts on the end is another like 2.5 pounds. So it's like 37.5 pounds or whatever. I can do hammer curls and I can do quite a few hammer curls with them, but I cannot if I actually try to do an arm curl, especially isolated. If I sit down, I put my elbow on my knee and isolate. I can't lift that 35 pounds in an arm curl. I have to do a hammer curl in order to lift it. If I looked at fish hooks, people pay for branding. Well, that's fucking stupid. Now, I'll get a quality brand. I'm not going to buy some garbage fish hooks. There is a difference in quality between really cheap fish hooks that'll bend or dull as shit. Don't have proper barbing on them or have huge barbs on them. So there, I can see buying a specific brand, not because I'm going to put the sticker on my boat and everything and be the cool guy that uses this, Eagle Claw or whatever. But if that's a good brand of fish hook, then yeah, I can see spending a little bit of money to get a good fish hook. You do 25-pound hammer curls? Damn, Janice, that's fucking... You got some fucking guns going on there. My wife's dumbbells are like, I think her heavy ones are like 5 pounds or something. She uses like 2.5 and 5 pounds. So Janice has got the gun show going on. Damn, I'm gonna have to tell my wife about that. Yeah, I could curl 25 if I knocked, 15 pounds off of that, but I'm getting up towards 40 pounds there. It's 37.5 pounds or something, close to 38 pounds. That's a lot for me. I can almost do it and maybe get one with my right arm. And my left arm, I definitely can't get, a full curl with my left arm. But yeah, again, if I were to knock 5 pounds off of it, that would probably be enough to do like 5. And if you're going for mass, if you're just trying to build your muscles and like get larger, like I am, you don't want to do a lot of reps. That's for strength building and stamina and all that kind of stuff. If you're just trying to bulk up, 6, 8, 10 at the most. If you're doing more than 10 reps, add more weight. You know, that's the way I look at it. Once I can get to where I'm doing more than 10 reps on something, it's time to add more weight. But again, that's for the purposes of bulking up. If you're trying to do other things, and there's other, other ways of going about it. But 8 reps, 10 reps, 12 at the most. If you want to go up to 12, that's fine. But if you're doing 15, 17, 18 reps of something, you need more weight. You definitely need more weight by the time you're getting up into the 12s and 15 reps of stuff. So, all right, everybody, any last thoughts? Actually, let's turn the lights out too, and we'll get the final effects of some disco ball action in the dark room, because it's always more noticeable when the lights are all turned out. And then that way, when I'm done, I can just fucking walk out of the room. Actually, let me get my shit out of the room first, because I do this all the time. I turn all the lights out and leave, and then I got to come back in with my phone and trying, like, looking in corners and seeing if I left anything sitting here, and where the fuck is my lighter, and etc. So let's get all that out of there now. Get my tablet here. Take that in with me. Got my vape stuff in here with me. Actually, I'll bring my vape back in there with me, because I can make some huge clouds in the disco ball light, and that's always fun. It's Friday night. We can have a little party before we leave. Yeah, Janice, you've got to have some definition. I'm not saying you're bulky necessarily, but you got to have some fucking, some cut arms if you're lifting 25-pound curls. That's awesome. I don't know about a right hook, but I bet she's got a hell of an uppercut. I haven't given everybody a gun show in a long time. I don't have much of a gun show to give. I haven't really been working out much anymore. My gun shows all of my abs now, and I'm not going to lift my shirt up for you, although I'm sure a lot of you might like that. You're not getting it. You got to pay for that. Zini can see it for free. Everybody else has to pay. There's nothing wrong with eating pizza. I personally don't very often, but I do still eat pizza. Every now and again, I'll go out for Chinese food. So, any last topics or thoughts before I get out of here? Love this stuff. For all that beautiful clouds you're seeing, also imagine a creamy, smooth French vanilla flavor associated with that. It even smells like French vanilla in here now. It's fucking good. Oh, she's got them both. Daniels will give you the old 1-2. Come in with the uppercut and come around with the right hook. I've never wanted to do a boxing class. I remember when I was a kid, I had no idea like what boxing gloves were. To me, they look like pads, like foam. And, I just assumed getting punched with a boxing glove didn't hurt because, as a kid, I saw these great big padded things on people's hands. And I just thought it was to prevent it from hurting, I did watch boxing, but I just thought that was something different because they're hitting them really hard and all that kind of stuff. And then this kid I knew, he was a little fucking psychopath. He was one of those kids that like tortured neighborhood cats and shit. His mom got him some boxing gloves, I guess, helping him, maybe this will help him get his aggression out. He can go beat up other kids rather than torturing the cats. But he got boxing gloves for Christmas one year, and I was over there because when you're kids, you hang out with the other kids that are in the neighborhood because that's who you hang out with. I didn't hang out with this kid very much though after getting to know him a little bit because he creeped me the fuck out. So we put the boxing gloves on and, we're doing the boxing thing and he punched me in the face with a boxing glove and holy fucking shit, did that hurt. And so that was the end of boxing. I took the boxing gloves off and I said, we're not doing that anymore. And that was my only experience with boxing. So yeah, I'm not a violent sports guy. Oh, you know what you need to take, Zini? A sumo class. If you think they can't move you, try sumo. That might be an interesting kind of wrestling for you. It's not as dumb and stupid as it looks. If you're into wrestling or whatever, like sumo is a legit kind of wrestling. I thought you might. There's some American dude that is huge on the sumo scene. I've watched a bunch of videos of him. He's a really small guy, and they're kind of like onto his tricks now. But one move he used to make all the time, which I just thought was hilarious, was, when they call the match to start or whatever, it's usually like two enormous mounds of human crashing into each other, like mountains forming. Um, this dude is small. He's fucking big by my standards, but by sumo mountainous, gelatinous, human-sized people, this dude's small. And so his trick is when the match starts and the other mountain's coming his way, he just fucking does one of these, and the guy can't stop his enormous momentum, and he just runs out of the fucking ring, and you win. If you can get your opponent out of the ring, you win. And that was what he did. But I did start to see later, I watched some matches with him where like they knew what was coming and they didn't charge full blast. They went in and then they went after him because they knew he was going to go to the side. And then he wasn't as successful once he actually got to a physical strength on strength. Because those dudes are huge, but they're strong as fuck. They're like fucking mules. They're so strong. Their legs can probably fucking lift a car. Terry Pratchett did a play on the sumo wrestlers. He called them SEMO wrestlers in his Discworld, because Discworld, everything's a little skewed. And when he first introduced the wrestlers, he said that like the guy that walked in the room and saw them, like he didn't know what he was looking at, because there was just these enormous human beings, like really, really enormous. Like at some point in the past, somebody sat down and decided, I'm going to breed really, really big bastards. Someday, that's what you ended up with. I love Terry Pratchett. It's a shame he's gone. Only the good ones fucking die young. Although he wasn't that young. I think he was in his 70s, but he died of Alzheimer's. It was sad to see somebody with such a brilliant mind lose it. You'd almost rather see him physically deteriorate than watch his mind go. You do have fucking arms like my legs, Zini. You got tree trunk arms. I haven't seen the rest of your body. I don't know if you got the rock solid abs like I got going on, but you definitely have arms. Well, that's because I drank my mushroom syrup tonight, Janice, and I'm just having a good time and chatting away and going. So my mushroom syrup always make my live streams better. I always have fun, and I think most other people have more fun when I'm on my mushroom juice too. I'm a lot less depressed when I'm on my mushroom juice, and my tongue wags a lot more. I tend to speak a little more freely when I'm shrooming a little bit. So sometimes that can get me in trouble, but so far hasn't been bad. Began trying to what? Deadlift your arm? I don't know why I keep asking questions. I'm the one that's trying to get out of here. Yeah, my arms aren't super cut. I'm not going for cut. I'm going for bulk. I just want to have big fucking arms and a full chest. Your core is your strongest asset. That's definitely mine. And we know it ain't my glutes. I always skip leg day. I haven't done leg work or glute work in forever. The closest I ever come to doing like leg work is my Bowflex, which is like a cross between a stair stepper and an elliptical. And so it's a huge cardio workout. burns a shit ton of calories. I mean, mad fucking calories on that thing. I sweat like I'm fucking squirting sweat out of me when I'm on that thing. But that gives my, I feel that shit in my legs the next day. It's not really going to build bulk, but it's keeping my legs strength up and whatnot. But I haven't been on my Bowflex in fucking 2 months or something. I don't even know how long it's been since I've been on my Bowflex. Yeah, I definitely don't have the low body fat. If I could actually lose about 10 pounds of body fat, I'd be a lot more defined and cut than I am. I got the muscle there. My abs are to the point where you can see the vertical lines on my abs. I just don't have the crossways lines because I still have too much belly fat in front of it. But I'm cut enough that you can actually see my abs now, which you couldn't even do when I was in my 20s. And so I'm pretty impressed by that. I'm 53 and you can see visible abs on me. So I'm pretty proud of that. It's been a lot of fucking sit-ups over years of doing it to get where I am now. Oh, rowing machine would be fun. I've never done a rowing machine. I have a thing on my home gym where I can get the rope and I can brace my feet and I can pull the rope back towards me, similar to a rowing machine, but not a true rowing machine where you're getting the full, backstroke and everything, where you're really working your back muscles and everything. 5'11", 170 pounds. Damn. Yeah, when there's a difference between like a buff workout six pack and he's so skinny you can see all his muscles six pack. So I don't know which kind of six pack you got. Maybe a blend of the two. Yeah, I bit the bullet when I bought that. It's one of the reasons my Amazon bill is like $9,000 because I was willing to drop the money. I think I paid like $675 or something for my gym. I got it on a really good deal. It's regularly like a $1,200 gym or something like that. But look into Marcy home gyms. There's a bunch of different models you can get that have different, ways you can do workouts and stuff like that. So I got the one that was going to be best suited for me. Actually, honestly, I didn't. There was one that was even better suited for me, but it was about 6 inches taller and it wouldn't have fit in my basement. And so it was also about $300 more. So I got this one, which does everything I need to do and then some. And honestly, the thing I bought it for was because it had the pad that you could put your elbows on and then you could hold the rope and do arm curls. I never do that. I actually have free weights that I do arm curls with. And so the one thing I bought it for specifically, I don't use it for. But it does everything else, and I can do all my leg work on it. I can do upper body and the pull downs and this way and that way and this way. And, and again, for the money I spent, if you're buying a gym membership, it would be equivalent of I don't know what gym memberships are now. I think I was paying like $35 a month, 600 years ago. A year's worth of gym payments now, and you could own the gym yourself and just work out when you want. Now, again, you've said before, Janice, that you're somebody that needs to, be motivated and have a trainer, pushing you and all that kind of stuff. I'm the other way around. I like just having it there when I'm in the mood, when I come down or I'm getting ready for a live stream, I can work out for a little while. If it was, I would never go to the gym. If I had a gym membership, I would never fucking go drive to the gym. And so having it here allows me to use it. But, everybody has their own thing. Some people need to go to a gym and or the other way around. If you had it at your house, you just never do it. So, all right, everybody. Your workout tips with Dan. You got philosophy on Wednesday, and you got buff workout tips tonight. So my battery is almost dead on my pen. So we're going to call that good. All right, everybody, it is 11 o'clock, so we're going to call that official at 3 full hours. Thanks for joining me. As far as I know, we will be back Sunday night. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. Yeah, I can definitely see that as having it a reason. Like that's why I'd go to Walmart and the grocery store and shit. I'd make myself go out and interact with society. Otherwise, I would just be around here fucking doing drugs and shit all day. It's much better to do drugs and then go to Walmart. All right, everybody. I don't see any reason why we won't be back Sunday night. I got plenty of shroom juice, so we will hopefully be able to have another fun evening on Sunday. So tune in for that. If you're not subscribed already, do so. That way you'll get a notification. Make sure you ring the bell, do all that YouTube stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you had a good time. I know I did. And I will see you guys on Sunday. Good night.